saying that we're going to push back against Putin if he doesn't negotiate seriously, and then failing to do anything. These mixed messages back and forth, sometimes in the course of a single week, don't do anything to strengthen the power of American words. It tends to weaken it. And I find that to say it's unfortunate is much too mild. The Trump administration needs to organize itself so it's sending one message, consistent message, rather than going all over the map all the time as different factions fight with each other.
The Defence Secretary, John Healey, says he's asked UK armed forces to look at options to bolster NATO's air defence over Poland. That's after the Russian drone incursion into Polish airspace this morning. He was speaking at a meeting of the E5 defence ministers in London.
As your NATO ally, we will support you, our Polish friends. As your NATO ally, we will play our part to help secure the safety of your people. And following our discussions today, I've asked our UK armed forces to look at options to bolster NATO's air defence over Poland. Today, as E5 nations, we say to President Putin, your aggression only serves to strengthen the unity between our NATO nations.
So that was the Defence Secretary, John Healey, speaking a little earlier on. We can talk now to Daniel Freed, the former US ambassador to Poland, who's a former Assistant Secretary of State in Washington for European Affairs. Welcome back to the show, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Can you give me your assessment of the nature and the scale of the threat to NATO from Putin and Russia after this incursion, this mass incursion by Russian drones?
Let's remember that Putin has been attacking Europe, NATO, with assassinations and sabotage for some time. So this is a new kind of a threat, but it is not, the threat itself has been going on for a while.
Yes.
This was a drone attack. It's not clear to me that they were going after military targets. It strikes me more likely that it was a probe to see how NATO would respond. It's an aggressive action. It's designed to test our resolve and intimidate NATO, and possibly intimidate Poland into accepting a kind of gray zone over Poland and, by implication, the Baltic states and Romania, countries that Russia thinks it should still be controlling. So that is a threat. And it's also a sly message to the West, if you keep up supporting Ukraine, we're going to escalate our attacks against you, so back off. Of course, it's not clear that Putin's aggression will work. For one thing, NATO, not just Polish aircraft, but Dutch aircraft, backing up Poland, scrambled to help shoot down some of the drones. And there were other units, Italian and German units, that were involved in this operation, according to the NATO Secretary General. So in that case, NATO responded promptly in real time without having another meeting or another bureaucratic wrangle. This is good, but it's not good enough. NATO now needs to consider whether it is properly defending the Baltic states, Poland, and Romania, and other countries potentially vulnerable to Russian incursions like Finland, also a NATO member. And it needs to consider whether the defense of the NATO frontier should exist entirely behind NATO, or whether we should defend forward.
Yes.
That is, start putting in air patrols over Ukraine to guard against sudden Russian assaults. If Russia is going to attack NATO countries, we should not let Russia set the terms and simply stand back and wait. That's maybe sound like a radical thought, but it's not a new thought. People have been talking about defending the skies over Ukraine for a while, and of course the Coalition of the Willing has mentioned that itself. We should consider what we can do for our own defense and to back up Ukraine, and not necessarily ask for Putin's damn permission.
Okay, all right. So if it's a message, and it clearly could be seen and should be seen in that way, if it's also a test, how is that test to be passed by NATO? You go some way to answering that question. It's necessary to strengthen the defences on the ground, the presence of NATO forces on that front line, but also presumably to spend more on defence, because it's still clear that NATO members are still a long way from possessing the sort of capabilities they need to wholly deter Russian aggression. And that, if you like, sends the ball back in the direction of the United States, doesn't it?
Well, everything you said is true. That is, we need to push back against acts of Russian aggression, and the rules of engagement need to allow us to do so. That may be a problem we've solved. We need to build up our defense over time. You mentioned that. And the United States needs to start sending consistent messages rather than saying that we support NATO, but we're going to pull troops out of Europe.
Yes.
Saying that we're going to push back against Putin if he doesn't negotiate seriously and then failing to do anything. These mixed messages, back and forth, sometimes in the course of a single week, don't do anything to strengthen the power of American words. It tends to weaken it. And I find that to say it's unfortunate is much too mild. The Trump administration needs to organize itself so it's sending one message, consistent message, rather than going all over the map all the time as different factions fight with each other.
What, as things stand then, Daniel, is the message from America to Poland and through Poland to NATO?
Well, the Polish president, Karol Nawrocki, had a very good meeting in Washington just last week, and the Polish foreign minister was there as well. I've heard that the Polish president is going to try to call Trump today. I think that's excellent. President Nawrocki is politically aligned with Trump, more or less. And he's got some political capital to use, and now's the time to use it, because the Polish president is staunch in defense of NATO and defense of Ukraine against Russian aggression. So on that, he can do a lot of good. Put that political capital to good use and do it soon.
All right, Daniel Fried, really good to get your thoughts. Thank you. Daniel Fried is the
My
former
pleasure.
US
All right.
ambassador to Poland.